Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the National Parents Union Presents Speak Your Truth with yours truly, Vivett Dukes. It's so good to see all of you again. Thank you for your consistency in just coming every week and paying attention to the information that's disseminated here on the National Parents Union's website and on Speak Your Truth every week. I do want to apologize for last week, Thursday, we had some technical difficulties. So we streamed a previous broadcast in lieu of our live guest, and we're going to have that guest back on again this Thursday, all going well. So just wanted to update you on that because I know a few people reached out like, hey, what happened? I'm waiting for, for the show to come on. And that felt really good just to know that there are people who consistently are paying attention to the work that the National Parents Union and Let's Speak Your Truth are doing. So I thank you for that. I'm very excited, like I always am. I only have guests on that I'm excited about. First of all, I can't even start with the guests yet because I have to just talk about my beautiful bouquet of flowers that my husband bought for me. If you've noticed, if you've been watching, I usually have a lovely vase of flowers that my husband buys for me every week. And the last couple weeks I didn't have any, and I got on him like, "What's really going on here?" I've gotten used to it, and the viewers have gotten used to it. So you're gonna have to do something about that. And sure enough, he did, and they're beautiful. I wish you could smell how lovely it smells in here with the lilies and everything. So shout out, John. Thank you when you watch this. Thanks, babe. Like they look beautiful and they smell beautiful, and I appreciate it. And another beautiful part of my life is my guest this evening. Her name is Alicia Figueres Lambert. I met Alicia. She honored my husband and I actually through her organization, Excellence for Success. Now, I had not met Alicia at the time. I didn't know her rather at the time when I met her, but she read about John's and my story, our love, our marriage, our the ways that incarceration had impacted our union, and she honored me as a recipient of an award at her annual award ceremony to honor community members for various just giving various community members their accolades and honoring. And since then we have not separated from each other, so much so that last night John and I were, was it last night, over this weekend, whether Saturday or Sunday, John and I were looking through one of his family albums, and we actually saw a picture of Alicia and her daughter in a family album. And I was like, babe, that's Alicia. And he's like, what? No, it's not. What would she be doing in my family album? Sure enough, I sent her a picture of it, like, isn't this you and your daughter? She was like, yeah. We still don't know the connection, or no one knows, like, well, somehow we were bonded already. She and John definitely were, John's family. But it just was a confirmation of something that Alicia and I had always said about each other, like, well, we're family, because that feeling of love and connectivity was always there from day one. Alicia does amazing work in the community on various levels, and I'm honored to have her on tonight to share more about some of the specific efforts. She's always doing something. That's one thing you're going to hear. She's always doing something. Alicia is always ready, and she's always a willing and able participant to help those who are in need. So with that being said, Alicia Figueres Lambert, welcome to the National Parents Union presents Speak Your Truth. Hi.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm totally excited. I love you, Vivett, and your husband.
Oh, I love you. We love you. You have been such a source of strength for us. Alicia, I can say this publicly, unabashedly, that your support to me as a friend, especially during John's incarceration and even post incarceration, the reentry process, you've been one of the few friends that I can really come to and talk to as a sister and say, we're having problems with this, or I don't understand this, or is this just marriage, or is this as a result of so many years of incarceration? And you listen to me. I've never felt judged by you. You've only sought to uplift me and John. And I can't say that for, all of my friends. And it's like from day one, it was just like, I always tell you when I see you, I want to be like you when I grow up. Because you're just so fly. Look at, ladies
Oh,
and gentlemen, she's beautiful.
thank you, Vivett. You
And
said in your opening that you sent me a picture yesterday of my daughter and I said, that's divine intervention. That, we are meant to be. I always felt that we were family. So now that was confirmation.
it was. It was. As soon as I saw the picture, I was like, that's Alicia. And your daughter, the same face. You both look the same. And she was a little girl. She's grown now.
Yeah, 33 years old.
She looked like she was about 5 in the picture.
Yeah.
So it showed you the span of time. But it's beautiful. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all the work you do. What is some of the work that you do, Alicia? Could you tell our viewers about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I do a lot. I'm retired. I was in the military and the CIA. I worked for Congress. I ran for governor in New York in 2010. I've done a lot in my life. And now when it's time to exhale, I feel like I'm doing a whole lot more. When
Mm.
when you and I met, I honored you through my company called Excellence and Success, where we would honor people every month, unsung heroes, to raise money to support children of incarcerated parents. And then as we experienced COVID, I had to stop having gatherings and I utilized my magazine to be the fundraiser. So I have a magazine that we launched in January 2020 called Inner Vision Magazine that celebrates the spirit of altruism, stories about people who give of themselves for the benefit of others. And the proceeds of that magazine supports my children who are incarcerated, Shelter for Kids.
Oh,
Every year we host a huge holiday party. You were there last year.
yes. Yes.
That's my favorite time of the year. I love that party. And we started this about 7 or 8 years ago when we had about 15 children when we started, and now we have over 100. And what we do is we host this large holiday party all year long. We do toy drives, fundraising, and we have a roster of people that sign up to come to these events. And in November of 2019, I'm sorry, 2018, Michelle Obama's staff called me and asked me, what are your plans for 2019?
Mm.
And I didn't have an answer, but my mouth opened and words came out. And what I said was, I'm going to have support groups all across Long Island, New York, and in Queens. And within 2 weeks, I had the venues already set up, the facilitators already set up, but I did not have the children because I relied on the rosters from my annual holiday parties to fuel my support groups. When I called these families, a majority of the information that was given to me at the holiday party was bogus. They only signed up to come to the party and get the gifts. The other portion of the roster were of parents and guardians that didn't feel their children needed support, yet these kids are acting out in school. So I was at a crossroads for over a year. And so I recently met with an organization who was doing an amazing amount of work for Shelter for Kids. They're going to be promoting it, social media, fundraising, Rude Rangers Entertainment. Well, their nonprofit arm will be embracing Shelter for Kids. So hopefully we'll be able to begin to have the support groups in addition to the annual holiday parties.
How did you get involved working with kids, like working specifically with children of incarcerated parents? How did you start working with them?
I worked in Nassau County Jail and Rikers Island for over 15 years as a health educator, HIV counselor, HIV tester. And later on, the latter years, I was doing cognitive behavior. And I always saw the void in the inmates' eyes of not being able to be with their children for whatever reason. And I just felt compelled to create a ministry, a mission to do something for these children. They can have one day out of the year to have fun and be loved by someone on the outside.
One of the things I noticed at the party that I went to last year is that the gifts are presented like this is from your mom, this is from your dad, this is from whom, whichever family member is incarcerated for that child, that you're very intentional about that. Why do you do that?
That special touch. How often does that child get to communicate with the parent that's incarcerated? If so, so many families tell the children that mommy or daddy is away at college, mommy and daddy is away at work. So they don't really know the truth, not all of them. So I wanted to give that special touch that this is from mommy, it's from daddy, wherever they are for Christmas. And I have the support of the sheriff over in Suffolk County, Nassau County, and Rikers Island because of my years of counseling and teaching to support this effort.
And what has been the response from the parents?
To come to the holiday party, they're they're excited, they're on top of the world, they can't wait to come. What hurts me is that a lot of them give fake information just to come to the party and get the gifts.
So much shame that is associated with having a family member, a parent who's incarcerated. I believe that's what drives these aliases, because they don't really want anyone to know.
But we are providing a service. We care. We want to give that child support. We even have an organization in Nassau County that if that child is diagnosed with ADHD, they'll have one-on-one services, counseling at no cost to the family. And they've partnered with Chella for Kids to provide this service, but we just can't get through that front door.
So CHELA is an acronym, right? CHELA?
Please don't ask me what it stands for. My daughter made it up. Every time someone, I need to memorize it. Every time someone asks me, it's on the website though.
Yes.
I always forget. My daughter that you saw in the picture, she created that acronym. And that's my nickname, Chella. It's short for Graciela, and so everybody calls me Chella, and English is Chella.
Well, CHELA is for the kids. So that's the name. If that's you, then that's what it stands for.
That's what it's.
I just did a remix of it for
There
you.
you go. That'll work.
Now, that's not the only organization that you have started. One thing about Alicia, she's constantly, you're an innovator. You're a very creative person, and you're a mover and a shaker. In the short time that I've known you, I think we met in 2018, 2017. In the short time that I've known you, you're constantly involved in different efforts to support marginalized members of our community here on Long Island, both Nassau and Suffolk County, in Queens, in the 5 boroughs of New York. Another effort that I know you to be a part of is Pillars of Love.
Yes.
You still doing that effort?
Yes, yes. You know, we've had some roadblocks because of COVID. You were on my TV show, A Name to Know, last year.
Yeah.
And through that interview, I was so moved by interviewing you, Vivett. And through that interview, you and I came to the agreement that we would provide support for the custodial parent in that home that has a child of a parent incarcerated. And we created a website, we created a flyer, we created a name. We were ready to rock and roll. And then boom, COVID hit.
In like 2 days, though, everyone watching literally.
Oh my goodness.
Burst of creativity. So
it was so
I went on your show, I was bawling, like everything started coming out about the hardships. Not everyone thinks it's hard when you have a loved one who is incarcerated, and it is. But what you don't hear enough about is the journey of reentry and the toll that it takes, not only on the person coming home, but the family, the community
Receiving.
who has supported them. There's no one to go to because you're protecting them. You just don't want to have your business out there. Culturally, we still have a lot of hangups in our community about counseling. We want counselors who look like us, can understand us. And so through that, we just started like, so let's start it. If it's not out there, let's start it. And you asked me, like, are you in counseling? And I was like, I need to be, but I'm not because I have yet to find a counselor. It's not like I haven't been looking. And literally in 2 days, website built, venue secured, flyers up, people signing up. We were like, okay, this is it, date set. We had plays in Huntington, right? It was Huntington. We had a spot at this. We had it going, and
Yeah.
then COVID
Shut down.
shut down. But the needs are still there. So how are we going to do this now? Because we have talked about like, all right, so how are we going to make this work? Because COVID looks like it's here, going to be here for a little minute.
Yeah, so I'm looking at September 2020, starting having the support group Pillars of Love on Zoom. When there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
Because if they were going to gather in a room and share, we can gather online.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if there's anyone out there who you are a family member of someone who's incarcerated, whether they're still inside or they are home now and a part of the reentry process, Pillars of Love. Go to the website, sign up, we'll have information up and start to get some just a support group. I'm not even going to say counseling. It's a support group to talk with other people that aren't going to be so mesmerized by the fact that you have someone who's incarcerated. That's been my personal experience with counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Counselors who are not familiar or specialized in the impact of incarceration. So I've experienced counselors like asking me so many questions about, well, what did he do? And like the whole session was basically a detail about John. And I felt like, well, I'm the one who's here before you. And while some of that might be relevant, how much of that really is relevant? Or are you just eating your curiosity from my pockets and based on my story? I'm not here for that.
That's right.
So this is an environment where everyone there is impacted. Everyone there knows what it is to have a loved one, whether it's a parent, a child. We act like it's only adults who go to prison. There are children who are incarcerated and parents who are worried about, how's my daughter, how's my son, how's my grandbaby? It's a lot. And I don't know of any organization who provides that. We looked.
No, I don't know of any either. And I think because we are so unique, we are going to have a great response. And people can call my phone number in the interim until the website is officially up and running, 631-741-5616. That number again is 631-741-5616.
Okay, great. If we could get that up, whether in the chat, anyone listening, whether you're watching it live or on the replay, please get in touch with Alicia if you're interested in being a part of the online support group. We're not going to delay. Justice delayed is justice denied. A support group delayed is a support group denied, and the
Amen.
support is needed in the words of our great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You know, that I agree. We need healing. And there's no shame in saying that. And we need each other. We do. Wow. Alicia, how did you get this heart for service? Where does that come from?
You know, I just came back from the belly of the beast, Orlando, Florida, yesterday. I had to go down there to visit my parents who are slowing down. And I went down with my sister, my husband, and my great nephew. And I'm looking at my family and I'm looking at the different personalities. And I am very, very different from everyone else. And my husband, my business partner, they asked me the same thing. Why do you have a bleeding heart? Why do you have a magazine that celebrates altruism? And they look at the other people in my family and they go, you're so different than they are. And I believe it's because for so many years, I worked with about 85 children that had AIDS living on Long Island. And they taught me how to appreciate life. They taught me how to live. And so I do all that I can for someone else while I can. And I get so much joy and fulfillment out of doing that. Being able to touch someone's life forever is a gift to me. And I guess that's why I do what I do and I do all that I do.
I can share this that when John first came home, you were the first person to offer him a job.
Uh,
Came, you told us come and meet with you. You treated it as a legitimate, interview, job interview. And now John had been home days. And Alicia was like, listen, this is what you're going to have to do. I'm offering you this. You network and do that. And while he wasn't prepared for the opportunity at that time, you set him on a track of really starting to grasp this is what it means to be outside now. And it was such a poignant and really powerful way of grounding him because everything else had just been when I come home, I'm going to do this. When I come home, I'm going to do that. And, that keeps you going when you're inside. It's necessary to have that hope. But then once you're re entering and you realize the obstacles and the difficulty, not knowing technology and so many things that he's still learning, you were very crucial in just saying, look, this is what's needed. You got it. You have a Gmail, set up your Gmail. At this, set up that. And he was just like, oh, my head's spinning. But I was like, babe, she's telling you the right thing. Everything she's saying to you is what you need to do. And just to come home and be offered a position was so meaningful to him because it showed him he still had worth, you know? And just thank you for that. I don't know how many of our viewers really understand what incarceration does.
mm,
And you have really purposed your life for making sure that those who are impacted by incarceration really have a space where they're safe, where they can be transparent, where the children can feel love, they can feel love. And, you know, Alicia, I've never met anyone like you.
mhm.
Were you impacted by incarceration in any way? Like, where did I know I just asked you where that heart comes from, and not to be too personal, but the only people I know who are really interested in incarceration is because they have a loved one or someone close to them was incarcerated. Is that
It,
the
no,
case?
it all came from me working there every day.
Mm,
It was like a mental trip for me every time I walked into the facility and the doors closed behind me, and how I would always thank the Lord that I'm not behind the bars, but I'm able to provide some sort of light, some sort of happiness, some sort of education to those that are behind the bars. And I would always imagine myself, what would it be like for me? How can I handle living like this? And it would always, I would have a struggle mentally, emotionally, and just that that fueled me to give more of myself to the inmates that were incarcerated. And every day was a different experience. Every day it was a blessing for me, a blessing to the inmates, and I just celebrated that. And my heart goes out to three populations: inmates, veterans, I'm a veteran, and those living with the virus of HIV, because I worked in those communities for so many years. I spoke earlier about working with so many children living with AIDS. I went to a lot of funerals for those children. I went to a lot of hospital visits for those children. And those are experiences and visions that I'll never lose in my memory. And so I take that and try to give back as much as I can, especially to those that are incarcerated, because they don't have anyone else. They don't have very many that can.
they don't. They don't. And it's so, families, I don't have personal experience with families touched by HIV. Thank you for your service as a veteran. The plight of those incarcerated like you, I've always felt like, how do you do it? I can't imagine living in a cage. Just the thought of it makes my heart start to palpitate, much less even you're telling me, even just working in there, knowing that you could leave, whenever you wanted to. It opened your eyes to the humanity of those who are incarcerated, you know?
And Vivett, not even the workers there, the correctional officers, gave love to the inmates. The things that I witnessed, very ugly,
Very
very
ugly,
ugly.
very ugly. And for the parents, the families who are, supporting them inside, but yet still living lives outside. The services that you provide through your various organizations, they really are necessary. And I just have to keep driving that point home because the help is needed. They often do not have a lot of help. You could be a very affluent family. When I say affluent, working, things are good for the most part financially. All it takes is one interaction with the criminal justice system, one need for a $5,000 retainer for a lawyer,
Mm.
one need for, restitution to be paid to the courts, and that could decimate a family's budget.
That's right.
Not to mention years of incarceration and having to put money on commissary and money to go visit, and they are rendered totally incapable of taking care of themselves. I don't know if people get that part. I don't. How does Inner Vision support them, and when is the next issue? Like, how can, because I believe people will see this and want to support. So how can they support your efforts?
Thank you. I got to tell you that I have gotten spoiled by doing things differently because of COVID. I can no longer host these monthly banquets and honor people to raise money for Cello for Kids. And so I have this magazine, and the first issue was printed. Then we went digital because of COVID, because we would host a bi-monthly cover party where we would have the cover blown up really big and cover it with cloth and do an unveiling because no one knew who was on the cover except for that person. And it was a nice way to get people together and, get the excitement around the magazine. So it comes out every other month, and the next issue is coming out the last day in September. So although the magazine focuses on altruism, every issue I add a different highlight. And the highlight for September is going to be Black Lives Matter.
Hmm.
And we don't know who's on the cover yet. So the cover story is $1,000 and a full page ad is $200. And the writers that I have all across the world write for exchange for a hug and a kiss and credits. And I also offer them a portion of any monies that come in as a thank you. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to secure funds because people just don't have it like they did before. And so we've just been, the magazine is digital, 100%. And I kind of like it that way. It's easier, it's user friendly, it's less expensive, but there is a demand for print. People are asking, especially the older population is asking for print. So I've applied for several grants. I'm waiting to hear back and hoping that one day we can go back to something like we used to have. But for now, it's every other month. It comes out the last day of that month, which is September. And then November, we'll have a theme of Thanksgiving. And in December, we're going to have an anthology, which will be an excerpt of all the stories throughout the year. And we'll sell that anthology to raise money for the holiday party in December.
So if this is something that you're interested in, please, can you tell us the website again?
Sure, innervisionmagazine.com.
Innervisionmagazine.com. Please go and support. So often we hear people say, well, how can I help? How can I help? This is a way you can help.
Yeah, we need writers, especially outside of the United States. We need people to want to be on the cover. We need ads sold,
Mhm.
and stories. You know, if you know of any story about someone giving of themselves for the benefit of others, or a Black Lives Story Matter issue, a story that anything that can add to the edition.
You've talked a lot about how COVID-19 has impacted your efforts. What has the pandemic been like for you? Switching gears slightly, you mentioned, how it's affected you financially and your, efforts financially. What else? How else has it really impacted you?
Well, I'm in real estate, and I specialize in short sales and foreclosures.
Mm.
So it's been good for us, unfortunately, fortunately. Um, there is a moratorium going on in New York State, which is going to be lifted on August 20th, and all hell's going to break loose. And unfortunately, the people who are going to be impacted most are going to be people of color.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Sure. The moratorium, Governor Cuomo had put in place, where if you could no longer pay your rent or pay your mortgage because of COVID, you did not have to pay it. You'd be forgiven. However, that moratorium is going to be lifted on August 20th. So at that time, if you're a tenant, landlords are going to be able to come after you for back rent or rent moving forward. They're also are going to be able to evict you. And as a result, a lot of people of color have been placed in this category and are going to be either homeless or in a lot of trouble very soon. If you're a homeowner, they're offering forbearances. If you cannot pay your mortgage, they'll give you 3 months to pay it. But a lot of the mortgage companies and lenders are not telling the homeowners that you'll have to pay that amount when the 3 months is over. They're not putting it on the back end of the loan. So the homeowner's not aware of that until that 3 month period is over. And they get that phone call and they go, okay, you can't pay it now? We'll give another 3 months. And they keep adding on 3 months up to 12 months. Well, that homeowner is going to be in worse shape than ever before come 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now.
Let me be clear. So what you're saying is that it's not like the mortgage is forgiven or put on the back end of the mortgage. It's just being delayed. And then if you delayed it for 3 months, at the end of that third month, you will have to pay 3 months worth of mortgage. At,
Correct. Plus your current mortgage.
so 4 months worth of mortgage at one shot. And
Correct.
if you don't, then you will begin the foreclosure
Well,
process.
when you're in foreclosure, it's when you have not paid your mortgage after 91 days. On the 91st day, you are in foreclosure.
Mm.
In New York, it takes a very long time for them to process you for auctioning off your home. So a lot of homeowners in New York are aware of that, and they just take their time and pay when they can, or not pay at all, and end up having to negotiate either a short sale or maybe a modification.
Mhm.
So if you
This,
do a modification, you have to show that you can pay your mortgage moving forward if they're able to renegotiate the terms. But if you haven't been able to do it in the last 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 months, what makes it different now?
you would have to show a great financial increase, like something would have to have drastically changed in order to show like, yeah, I can do it now. I wasn't able to before, but I can now.
And you have to show payment history, income history, and bank statements to show that you can meet the bill. And most people can't. And a lot of folks are in denial. They
Mm.
don't want to lose their home, but then they don't want to do the work either. So it's a lot of emotions that you deal with in dealing with a homeowner when it comes to short sales and foreclosures. But you have to be real with yourself, and this is what we do. So COVID has impacted many people of color. I have a nonprofit called I'm Keeping My Home, and the website is imkeepingmyhome.org, and we give free seminars on how to keep your home. We have loopholes that we teach homeowners on what to do to keep their home. And after we exhaust all avenues, then we talk about ways to start over again.
Is this for homeowners solely in New York State?
Correct.
Okay, so if you're in New York State, you're hearing this information, you know that it applies to you, please get in contact with Alicia. You need help. August 20th, today's August 17th.
Now, the courts are not entertaining at appointments until November sometime because of they're so behind.
Okay. Meaning if you're getting evicted, you might not go into court until November, but once the ball starts rolling,
Yep.
that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know this, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that didn't know, not with this much detail. Of course, we've heard it said in the news, but there's so much being said in the news. And this is why I appreciate the work that the National Parents Union is doing, because we're providing you with a place to get information, like knowledge worth knowing, knowledge that really matters to you. Because if you're a parent, the prior basic needs have to be met. A roof
That's
over
right.
your head is a basic need. Nothing else is going to matter if you don't have a roof over your head. Wow.
Yeah.
This is
So that's how COVID has impacted my world. I've been okay. I just have concerns with the magazine, which I shared with you already. And I love being digital because
yes.
it's so easy. The Cello for Kids is having a fundraiser coming up very soon, and it's Women Who Rock Their Roles. That was another event we were having prior to COVID, and we had to wait. So we're going to do it online, and we have honorees already in place, which will be honored online, and hopefully it'll be successful. It's going to be, I've never done an event online before, so I don't know how the dynamics are. If I were to attend an event, a fundraiser, I don't know if I would be so apt to pay for something that I can see on my computer. So we have to think of other ways to raise money.
I think the elements of a good party are the same, whether they are online or in person, and you know how to throw a good function, a good party. So good music, good vibes. People want to be entertained. Think in this climate, people want a space to kind of take their minds off of the foreclosures, the COVID, the kids going back to school. There's a lot going on that's up close and personal in their face. And so being able to log on and just meet different people. I don't know what platform you're using. We use Zoom here. You can put people in breakout rooms and have little specialized sessions. There's lots that you can do. I've thrown a couple of Zoom parties and they're fun. You need good music. You don't have to worry about food because that's an issue. But people just want a vibe. They want your environment decorated and they want a vibe. Basically, that's what they're coming for. And they want to be entertained, want to take their mind off of things.
Well, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
I'm used to face-to-face contact.
I know. I think I was actually going to that event. Was that the rock, the bells, the afros and that stuff? Was that? Yes, I remember that flyer. Yep, I was going to that. Wow. What counsel would you give to parents, Elise? Because you work a lot with kids. And so have you heard any feedback from children about going back to school or this very different, back to school season? It's quite different this year than any other year.
All the kids that I've spoken with cannot wait to go back to school. I have my own personal feelings. I don't have children in school, but I have my view. I don't agree with it. My husband's granddaughter is going to college upstate to learn on her computer. What sense does that make? It's ridiculous. My attorney is in Rochester right now as we speak, settling her son in college, but he's going to be learning on his computer. Stay home and do that. Why spend all that money? I don't understand the dynamics of that. I don't agree with going back to school. We've done it thus far. It's been successful. I think we need to create more social, the social aspect of the child interacting with their peers here and there, but I would stay home. Going into that building with all that, who knows what's there. I just don't agree with it. There's no place like home, like Dorothy said.
Mm. No, it's true. I know we here have taken several polls, and parents are increasingly voicing their concern about sending their children back into the school building, safety measures. Like, even if the schools, so these are my concerns, and I'm saying it. I also don't have children who are, well, I have a daughter who's in college. She's at community college, and everything is online, but she's
Right.
living home. She's not going on campus, but at community college, there is no campus option. So that has settled that. But in terms of students going back into their elementary schools or middle schools or high schools, how are kids really going to socially distance themselves? It seems like a very challenging concept to teach kids, to be in one room for 4 to 5 hours a day, even eating their lunch in that room with the mask on. It seems like a lot to me. Like, it might sound good on a plan that has to be submitted to the governor for, whatever financial sake, or just to say you're in compliance. But what is the practicality of that? It just doesn't, it's not working for me in my years of being a teacher. I don't think it's really going to work.
And Vivette, what about the parents that are encouraging their children to go to school for their own personal reasons? A lot of parents are frustrated, having these kids home all spring, all summer, and they just can't wait to get them out of the house. That's not healthy.
No.
That's not healthy at all.
They need support also. They need some support. I think we need more of a community model. I think parents need to be able to have someone to say, can you take my child for a couple hours today to decompress? Been there. I know what it's like. So there's no shade in what I'm saying. There have been
Mm.
times where I'm like, I need a break. So I get it. Because I can say, and I'm not being dramatic, raising my children as a single mother in many ways was like living in a pandemic,
Mm.
needing help, needing support, having to do it on your own, not being able to always do what you want to do for financial reasons and certain constraints. I understand that. But putting your child in harm's way, now that's something different. And as a society, I don't think parents should be forced to make those types of decisions. We should be here to support one another,
That's right.
because where you're sending your child to in the school might not necessarily even be a safe space for them,
Mm-mm.
because schools weren't always safe prior to COVID. Let's just keep it 100.
Amen.
Not for Black and brown children, they
That's
weren't.
right.
They weren't. So if they weren't safe before the pandemic, what makes you think that those same people are going to take extra care, extra caution with your child? Think about it. It's not adding up. It's not. And we just keep seeing more, like across the United States, just seeing more and more instances of kids went to school and then 160 kids got COVID. And now I think, aren't we trying to like mitigate this? That's going to exacerbate it.
That's right.
Wow.
That's
I
right.
want to ask you about your husband, because he's another fascinating man to me. I would like to have him on the show. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
So, please, I would love him to come on, because he's a reverend. No, he's a pastor. He does a lot in the community as well. They're a power couple. What work is he doing now?
He's retired also, so we just stay home and play house all day.
Nice.
Uh, he's a minister and a chaplain, international chaplain, and he has a church called Church of Divine Revelation, and the website is churchofdivinerevelation.org, and it's H2H. So he goes home to home and ministers. And this came right on time he just started in January of 2020, and it was like so on time with COVID, because we did the first service at my sister's home first Sunday in January. And then after that, we just decided to go from home to home, because it was such a blessing. I loved it to be able to go to someone's house and bring the word and and bring that love to someone's home and then go to someone else's home and do the same thing, it was such a different dynamic than going to a brick and mortar.
Yes.
We don't have the overhead. We don't collect tithes. That we're not about that. We're about the word, and that's it. And it's just been awesome. So he's loving that, and he's getting ready to start I hate to say a TV show, but a program on television called The Collar, and it's a counseling session on on television online for people who want to share their experiences, where they were, where they are, where they're going. He's going to have different guests come on that are therapists, counselors, just a variety of people, but it's all about counseling. It's pastoral counseling and referrals. And I found that to be a very different niche to have on television. So he's excited. He's going to be launching that in a couple of weeks. He's going for his photo shoot next week. He's looking forward to that.
I bet
So, so that's called The Collar. And we're finishing up the website this week.
Wow. Well, when he's not so, I know he's a very high demand right now and very busy. When he has time, I'd love to invite him on because you both have hearts for counseling. Why is counseling so important to you?
You know, he taught me a closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Mm.
And that says it all. You know, I've always been one to express myself. I've always been one to feel so good after being able to express myself, be it good, bad, or indifferent. At least you know. You don't have to guess. We've communicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this communication is a beautiful thing in whatever capacity it is.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think a lot of people need to learn how to communicate because when you're in pain and you keep it in, it's like being constipated. It's not comfortable. But when you have that release,
Mm.
it's just a beautiful thing. It's healthy. It's exuberating. It's calming. It's therapeutic. So why not?
Such wisdom and something that we can all learn from because again in our communities I think we've come a long way to some extent, but there still is quite the stigma attached to mental health,
Oh, absolutely.
and we are so afflicted when it's I think the saying is when America gets a cold, black and brown people get the flu. You know, whatever is happening nationally, Black, Indigenous people of color experience that harm in more detrimental ways. So it is imperative that we find ways to heal the harm that's been inflicted on us. And I don't know that that message has really penetrated our community. Have you found that it has? Because you've been doing counseling for a while. What has your journey taught you? Have people become more receptive to counseling in the Black and Brown community, or not?
You know, when I was in the jail, the counseling was receptive because they had no choice.
Mandated.
Exactly. But on
Yeah.
the outside, we're in denial. We don't need it. We never had it before. That's a white person's thing. That's not about us. But what I have seen lately, I've seen more conversations about it. I don't know if people are receptive. I don't know if they're coming in the rooms and actually doing the work. I don't see that. I don't know. But I am seeing more conversations and more efforts towards getting together and providing counseling to people of color.
Definitely. I mean, the fact that your husband is going to be part of a broadcast dedicated to counseling as it is a part of a pastor's ministry and you like that, something like that would have never been on even 5 years ago, right? We would have been
Yeah.
like, oh no,
So
there's no audience for that.
he's relating it to Dr. Phil, like a black Dr. Phil, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yes. Wow. Powerful. Because that's what I hear people saying. I really wish we could come up with some kind of a directory of Black and Brown mental health providers. I think there's something about talking to someone who you feel understands you because they're coming from where you're coming from and because they look like you.
Mm-hmm.
With so many, you're talking about Black Lives Matters, the next issue of the magazine. I would love to see something in there about the intersection of Black lives and mental health, and why part of our lives that matter are our minds. Some
Write a
minds,
story on it.
our hearts matter. I think I may have to, because that's something, as I'm talking to you, I see that we need to really heal. And I'm saying it public. I need counseling. There's lots of harm and trauma and things that come up, and marriage is a great place for all of that stuff to come out. And let me tell you, you start realizing all the issues, like, oh, yikes. It really is, it is needed. Are you, how can someone who wants to write contact you? Are you looking for writers in
Oh,
general?
absolutely. Absolutely. They can call me 631-741-5616. My email is innervisionmagazine@gmail.com.
Awesome. So if you're a writer, if you have experience with this, if you just have something to share, really is what I'm hearing. You have something to share, please send in your entry to Alicia Figueres Lambert, because I think the more we connect and we hear of, there's power in our stories. Um, the Bible says in Revelation, we will overcome by two things: the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. I'm paraphrasing, that's ultimately what it says.
Amen.
Hearing power in hearing the stories of others, because then that isolation perhaps that you felt, or the shame or the sadness, the depression, when you hear other people went through, you start feeling like, oh, it's not just me. I thought it was just me. It's not just you. Lots of people from different walks of life are encountering the same thing, but we stay isolated and we don't talk to each other.
Mm-mm.
I don't
Vivette,
understand.
I want to also share with you that in the magazine, I have a section in there called Behind the Pen, PEN.
Mhm.
And these are writings from those who are incarcerated that are sending to us. And I'm putting it in the magazine just as they write it. So if anyone is listening to this today or tomorrow, if you know of anyone that's incarcerated that writes, that wants to send in their writings, please do so.
Oh, what
And
a
you can,
voice and agency to people who have been rendered voiceless. Wow. Powerful, powerful stuff. Alicia, I thank you so much for
oh,
being
I thank you.
there. Anything else you'd like to share before you go? The platform is totally
Oh
yours.
my God, there's so much.
Please
I
go.
produce a I produce a weekly Christian radio program on 93.5 FM in New York, and anyone can listen to it live feed through the voicesofworship.com. It's a 3-hour program, and every week we have a different topic. This Wednesday, the 19th, the topic is, do Black lives really matter?
Well, that's a hot one right there. Mm.
Yes, it is. So they can live stream it on the voicesofworship.com every Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight.
Wow. I mean, you've just given us so many different avenues for information, whether it's, we've gotten radio shows, websites, magazines. If you're the child of an incarcerated parent, there's hope for you. If you're a family member who has an incarcerated loved one or coming home, there's a support group for you. If you need help with mental health, there's a show for you. Like, please share this broadcast. And I don't say this often, but you're chock full of information here. If you weren't able to write it down, it will be streamed. Please go back, contact Alicia, get the help that's needed, because it's available and it's here, and she's a willing vessel, and she's been doing this for a long time. She knows what she's doing. I've been impacted by Alicia's life. She's tried and proven. She talks the talk and she walks the walk. And I know in this time there are a lot of people saying a lot of things. That's always the case, but it's so beautiful when you can find someone who's really about what they say they're about and who has longevity behind them to substantiate what they're saying. So just thank you for your service, honestly, not just as a veteran, but for your life's work, for recognizing the least of these people who are often overlooked, for saying, no, I see you, I'm shining a light on you, and thank you. People love to be acknowledged. Everyone likes to be seen when they're doing something good, you know? And I
Thank
would
you so much for that.
shine a light on you. I hope by being here tonight, you felt loved and appreciated
Very much so.
the work you do. And thank you for all you've done personally for me and for my husband and for my family. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love you, Vivett.
Love you too. Thank you. That's it for tonight. Thank you so much for being here with the National Parents Union presents Speak Your Truth. We will see you again on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, please be well and take good care. Bye now.